And we're back for episode 3 of the Cash Flow Corner.
Yeah, we're back, baby. We're ready to go here for episode 3. Once again, got myself co-host. My name's Jacob Thomas, and then we have the other not so good-looking co-host, twin brother Aaron Thomas, on here.
Yeah, I think the listeners might have to disagree with you on that one. But yeah, excited to kick off episode 3 here. If you haven't listened to episode 1 or 2, I would recommend going back and listening to those. Episode 1 is more about our background and really what real estate syndication is. And then episode 2 is more on the benefits and risk of real estate syndication. But thanks for all the listeners tuning in today. And yeah, excited to get episode 3 here underway.
Yeah, like Aaron said, obviously, we can continue to feel the love and support from you guys. But if you guys could obviously, on social media or Instagram and LinkedIn, if you guys could like our stuff, share it, post it out for other people to see, we would appreciate that more than you guys know. And then also on top of that, give us a follow on our main page there, Twin Lux Capital. I know a lot of you guys are seeing the content, so if you guys could hit us on a quick follow, that'd be great. But yeah, before we jump into the content, I know we have a decent amount of stuff we want to cover here on this episode today, Aaron. But before we do that, give the listeners a little idea of what's been going on in the world of Aaron Thomas, what's been going on upstairs in your head. How are you feeling?
Yeah, thanks. Feeling good. Excited for some opportunities that we may have coming up here in the future, and maybe some deals that we have coming in the pipeline here. So that definitely gets us excited. But yeah, just happy to be here and be able to get content out to our listeners, and really excited to be able to help out our listeners and give them some more knowledge into the world of commercial real estate investing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking for how I've been doing. So I thank you for that. But no, in all seriousness, this last probably a week and a half, 2 weeks, we've had almost our entire family out here in Scottsdale visiting us in some sort of way. But yeah, so I mean, for me, just kind of having that that mental reset of enjoying some family time, getting to see them, because for us, we're on the other side of the country out here in Scottsdale. We have our parents who are back in Michigan, and then we have some other family in Pittsburgh, Tennessee. So we have family all over the country. But just like I said, it was really a good mental reset for me to kind of get more motivated, get locked back in, because at the end of the day, that's our main mission. Our main goal is we want to help people. We want to provide for our family. We want to create a legacy that lasts long beyond, the years that we live here. So for me, getting that good mental reset with some family and having that time, I feel like it's only motivated me even more to, keep pursuing on this overall goal that we have of, getting more people involved in the world of real estate investments. So I'm fired up, Aaron. I don't know about you, but yeah, I'm feeling really good right now.
Yeah, that is a great point of really kind of describing why we are doing this and how we got into this, because it's always better when you're doing well, but it's even better when people around you are doing well. And I feel like that's really our main focus, is trying to help others and really help others grow. And I think that's why we're trying to get this knowledge out there so other people can prosper and be doing well in their daily lives. But just want other people to, I mean, if you're doing well or you're succeeding, it just makes the ride that much more enjoyable if you have people around you that are doing the same thing. So trying to get that out to our listeners and really just helping them learn and grow is our main focus. But yeah, excited for the journey ahead.
Yeah, and really, the sole purpose, like I keep mentioning, of this podcast is to help and teach and learn from other people. But really, I feel like we would be doing ourselves here a little bit of disservice if we didn't kind of, open the door for people to learn a little more about what our daily base, what goes on in our daily lives and everything like that. So we're going to try to open up as much as we can to everyone, while staying on task of, really getting our point across of the content that we want to get out to you guys. So I guess without further ado and without kind of bouncing around the content here, Aaron, what can everyone expect from today's episode? What are some key points that we're going to be talking about? Just kind of give a brief layout of what everyone can kind of expect for the rest of this podcast.
Yeah, really, we're going to be kind of going over the key players that go into a real estate syndication deal and what their roles are and really what their focus is. And then also touch on the mechanics of a real estate syndication deal that I know a lot of people may not think of, but just kind of what's at the foundation of a real estate syndication deal and really what goes into it.
Yeah, so Aaron, you mentioned there, and I'll just kind of hop right in. You mentioned about the key players of who's involved in the syndication process, what are their roles and responsibilities. So I'll just kind of kick it off here. The best way I can kind of describe or, lay it out for people to understand a lot better is you want to break the players down into three different categories or buckets, I would say. And between those three buckets, and I'll just kind of briefly go over them, you're going to have the lead or the general partner on the deal, and then you're going to have the limited passive investors, so that's a separate bucket. And then lastly, you're going to have a third bucket filled with different real estate brokers, lawyers, accountants, all the stuff that goes on, the back end of things that people normally don't see. But I feel like if you break it up into those three buckets, that kind of, helps align interest of where everyone's responsibilities and duties are. But yeah, so I'll kind of kick it back to you here, Aaron. I don't know who you want to kind of cover first or what bucket you want to touch on, but yeah, I'll swing it back to you if you want to kind of give us the lead here.
So yeah, like you were saying, there really are three groups, but I would say there's two main key players. And the first one being the sponsor or the general partner. And this is the individual or company that really organizes the syndication, identifies the investment opportunity, arranges financing, and really manages the investment throughout the life cycle of the deal and really sets the strategy in place for the investment. And then these general partners also invest their own money as well to align interests with the limited partners or investors as well, which then takes me over to the second group of being the investors or limited partners. And these are really the investors who kind of sit back, they invest the majority of the capital and really let their money work for them. They're not managing the investment from any kind of perspective, but just letting their money work for them and then receiving a monthly, quarterly, annually update on their investment, whatever it may be, and just kind of sitting back and being that passive investor like we've talked about. But yeah, those are really the two main key players that I think of whenever we started talking about this.
Yeah, so I feel like that's a really good place to start. Like you said, there's going to be those two main players. You're going to have those limited partners, and then you're going to have the general partner. And really, that's going to be the bulk of the equity, if not all the equity that's being raised. And from there, people just assume once you have all that equity that you can just, blindly get into some kind of deal and there's not going to be other stipulations or other people that are involved. And that's where this third bucket of other stakeholders comes into play. And I don't want to call it the forgotten bucket because if I did, I think it's so key because really without these players, like I mentioned, you're not going to get into a deal. The deal's not going to get under contract. You're just going to be spinning your wheels at that point. But for me to break it down of who some of these other key players are, and it's probably pretty, self-explanatory in terms of who's involved. But really, you're going to have that real estate broker who is brokering and negotiating the deal on behalf of the seller and the buyer. He's going to be playing the middleman, trying to figure that out. And then on top of that, too, you're also going to have lawyers, accountants, making sure that everything checks out on their end, everything's up to, legal par and that everything checks out. But from there, I feel like the key player in this category, and I feel like it's key throughout the life of the deal is the property manager, the property management team. Because ultimately, what you're going to see is from a property manager, their role is to be on property, to keep up with maintenance, to collect rent, really just to ensure that the operation of the property is going smoothly. And then also at the same time, too, you're going to want to make sure the property manager is executing the business plan that the lead sponsor has set out to, for the life of the investment. So really, like you mentioned, of the aligning of interest, everyone's got to be on the same page really just to get the deal under contract. And then from there, the work's not done. Like I mentioned, with the property manager, they're on site making sure that the business plan is executed the way that the lead partner wants to, see the investment through. So for me, I know it's the two key players that are raising the equity, but you cannot forget about these other key players. I don't know if you have, any other thoughts to share there, Aaron, or if I, summarized it pretty well, but you can kind of hop in there.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And kind of going off that, it is key to have all parties involved in the deal to have their interests aligned and just to be able to be on the same page. Because whenever you are going into a deal like this, you want to make sure your general partner, limited partners, property manager, lawyer, accountant, everyone knows where the goal is at, which way you want to pull the rope, and ultimately where you want to get to. And like you were saying, I think that's such a key point whenever you're going into a deal, especially of this size, of just making sure everyone's interests are aligned and that you're all on the same page, that it just adds up and it makes sure that the deal runs smoothly, everyone's happy, and then at the end of the deal, everyone's happy as well, getting paid out with the agreed upon terms. So I think that you kind of hit that right on the head, and it was a great point.
Yeah, really what it comes down for me, and the one main point I would want to get across in terms of everyone, aligning interests and being on the same page, it comes down to teamwork. Everybody has different roles, responsibilities, but at the end of the day, everyone's got to bring something to the table that's going to help the deal, that's going to, ultimately raise, increase the value of the property over the life of the investment. So it doesn't all just happen up front. It's all throughout the life of the deal. There's teamwork. There's constantly, everyone's got to be on the same page. I think really, like I said, that's my main point I want to get across, is that you can only do so much on your own. And we've kind of, obviously learned that through our brief and young entrepreneur career is, we got a really good start. It was Aaron and I, but then you kind of get to the point where you're stuck and you need help really, and you need to add value. You need to bring team members on, because that's the really essentially the best way to grow and continue to grow your business, is to keep adding team members that add value to your business. So I guess that's my my little spiel there on making sure that everyone's on the same page, because I do really think it's super important that everyone has that aligning interest. So from there, we'll jump into kind of the mechanics of a syndication process, how that really starts. I'll kick it back to you, Aaron, in terms of the mechanics of, starting a multifamily investment. What should people kind of expect in terms of, the mechanics, the outlook of where does everything start?
Yeah, I think for that, I think the best place to start would be the legal structure. And really, at the heart of every real estate syndication project, there is a legal entity that holds the property and governs the relationship between the investors and the sponsor. And really, the most common structures are LLCs, or limited partnerships, between the general partner and the limited partners. But really, this is just kind of a safety net that protects all investors' assets. But it also is an advantage due to the rule of there not being double taxation through these legal structures. So it's really just a foundation that goes into starting a real estate syndication project.
Yeah, Aaron, I feel like that's a good place to start off with, just getting a real broad, basic understanding of the mechanics of a multifamily syndication deal, especially if this is your first time learning about, the world of real estate and you're not sure what everything includes. I feel like that's a good place to start. But I feel like another question that, obviously comes up commonly from people, and what we hear a lot of is, what are the fees associated with investing in a multifamily syndication deal? And really the best way I could break it down, and, Aaron, feel free to hop in whenever you want, but it comes down to three main fees. You're going to have the acquisition fee, you're going to have the asset management fee, and then you're going to have the disposition fee. But the acquisition fee, typically it's going to be anywhere from 2 to 3% of the purchase price. And this is commonly paid out to the GP at closing. And then from there, the second one, like I mentioned, is the asset management fee. Really, this fee, it breaks down into, it's somewhere close to 1 to 1.5%. And what this covers, this fee, it helps offset the GP's operational cost from the property throughout the year. And then from here, like I mentioned, the third fee that you're going to see is the disposition fee. This fee you won't see till the end of the deal. And really, the disposition fee is a small, very small percentage of the sales price and is usually collected upon property sale. So, Aaron, I know I kind of just really basically laid out the three there. If you want to kind of chime in on a few of them, maybe I didn't cover it well enough. Maybe you have some extra thoughts on it. Feel free to kind of hop in and share your thoughts there.
Yeah, but for these fees, I would say the acquisition fee is just that upfront 1-2% that goes to the general partner for really putting the deal together, getting the deal under contract, finding the funding, the financing, everything like that. But I think it's also huge to note that the general partners don't receive a majority of their profit until the end of the life cycle, the same as the limited partners. Like you were saying, it's more operational costs because there are accounting fees, lawyer fees, broker fees, everything like that that are come in turn during the acquisition and disposition fees. And then in terms of the asset management fee, it's kind of like you were saying, just that operational expense of kind of keeping the lights on if there is a general partner team that needs to be paid out or anything like that. It definitely helps, but I think that's definitely a great way to kind of break down the fees, but also knowing that these are very minimal whenever it comes to the end of a life cycle with how much percentage is actually getting paid out at the end of the deal.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks for, like I said, sometimes, what you say and how you break it down might resonate with a listener more than, what or how I explained it. So thanks for hopping in there and adding some value there towards the fees. But enough of the fees. Let's jump into the good part. When am I getting paid? How am I getting paid? What's the distribution? I know that's on the forefront of a lot of, if not everyone's mind of what that process looks like in terms of an investment in the world of real estate. So I guess the best way that we could probably go about this route here, Aaron, is if you could break it down in terms of what we're looking to do at Twin Lux Capital in terms of equity distribution. If you could just simply kind of lay it out for the listeners of what they should expect if they were to go ahead and invest with us, what that would look like.
Yeah, in terms of equity distribution, it really varies depending upon the general partner and the deal. But most of the time, it's either a 70-30 split or an 80-20 split. Then at Twin Lux Capital, what we like to do if we're a general partner in on the deal and we bring a fund of investors to the deal, we then like to increase that spread even more for our investors. Let's say if it's a 70-30 split, we'll split that 75-25 just to give our investors a little bit more on the back end and encourage them more to invest with us. Because this really all comes into play at the end of the cycle when, let's say, your preferred return was 8%. Up until 8%, all limited partners receive profits up until 8%. And then from, let's say, 8 to 12%, it would be a 70-30 or 80-20 split between GPs and LPs, with that 80% of majority going to the investors. And then, so let's say it was 80-20 from 8 to 12, then from 12 to 15, 70 to 30, and then 15 and above, 60-40, always in the majority of the investors. But the way this works is back to aligning those interests with the general partner and limited partner, because the more percentage of return that the general partners bring back for the investors, the more split that they get on the back end as well, which where that encouragement kind of comes in with those aligned interests. So for me, I feel like that's really the best way to kind of break down how equity distribution works. And just by being able to hit those certain benchmarks or certain landmarks that it splits each time. And it's really a crucial part just in terms of being able to understand how each group is paid out in those terms.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. You were, obviously giving a lot of numbers, and really what it comes down to is what, like you said, that waterfall structure breakdown of, once you hit certain metrics, then the split changes. And, if that's something you guys have more questions on of how that typically works throughout a deal, don't hesitate to reach out, ask us questions. We'll explain it to you. We'll hop on a quick phone call. We love to do that. But yeah, really outside that, Aaron, I want to kind of get into the principal return and how that happens at the end of the life of the deal. And really, you're going to see it in two different, liquidity events. Either A, you're going to refinance at some point, or B, you're just going to straight up sell the property. And really what this does and what this allows the investors, not only do you recoup that initial investment, but if you were to say, if you were to refinance at some point, you pull that initial, some of that, or, it could be some of that or the whole initial investment out. And what this does is it brings your risk way down. And essentially at this point, like I said, your risk is almost completely gone depending on how much, you're taking out of the deal and what that looks like. And honestly, the way that these events occur is through underwriting strategies prior to the deal going under contract. So these GPs, they're looking at their exit strategy before they even get into the deal, whether that's a refinance at some point or whether it's just to sell the property 3, 5 years, 7, 10 years down the road, whatever that looks like from the underwriting strategy. But really, when you get that principal return is, like I said, either through refinancing or just straight up selling the property. And that's when you're going to get that principal return back. And when you get your money back and you're happy. But yeah, so I feel like, Aaron, I know we kind of touched on a lot there. We broke down, who the key players are, a little bit about what their roles are, kind of dipped our toes into, the equity distributions. And I can almost promise you that we're going to have another episode of the waterfall, and we're going to go into that a little more and take a deeper dive. But I feel like this is a really good spot to kind of get your feet even a little more wet as we continue. I know this is only episode 3, so we have a lot more content that we're ready to get out to you guys. But obviously, thanks again for tuning in. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah, I know we kind of covered a lot, but try to break it down into its simplest forms. But if you have any questions, feel free to send us an email. We love responding to those. But also on our website, there's our free ebook, which is a great resource just to gain some more knowledge, learn some more, and really just set yourself up for investing in future real estate syndication projects. But yeah, thank you to all the listeners tuning in here to episode 3. Appreciate it.